And I'm sure we may have a few more joining us, but welcome to the Hag Stone class. So some of you may have your stones. If you do have one, they don't have to be very big, and I'm going to get into them, but here's mine, and you can see it's got a hole right through it. And the other thing, even though we're not talking about this tonight, is sometimes you can walk in a forest and you'll find a piece of twig or a piece of wood, and maybe the knot is out of it. I had one in my kitchen, but we're doing kitchen renovations, and it was like on off that I could not reach. And I was like, darn it, Brett's not home. I can't get this to show them. So I will post a photo, or I'll send you off a photo as well. So let's get into a little bit about these. So even though we're going to be going into holy stones and the magic of them tonight, in order to get to that place, we all have to go into a place where you need to believe in the power of spirit. And you know, I believe, and this doesn't mean you have to believe, the things that I'm sharing with you is something that works for me. And some of it may work for you and all of it, and maybe you have some things to share. I'd love to hear some sharing after if you do. But before we move forward, you have to believe not only in the power of spirit, but you have to believe that stones have spirit. And I want to go into that a little bit because it is something that I love. It is something that I believe in big time. And you know, a lot of ancient cultures believe that the earth is alive, and that all things, no matter how small or big, they're all precious. And in my Native American tradition, you'll notice that a lot of Native Americans wear turquoise. Well, we wear turquoise when we go to the powwow. Some people wear it all the time. But it is known as a beacon to the spirit world. Not only do we use it for the medicine of the stone, but we use it because the native gods and the universe, like the spirits that we believe in, can recognize their children. So we believe that when we wear turquoise, the spirit world will recognize us as one of their own. And so every stone has a vibration. And I believe that if there's a vibration, there's a spirit, there's a frequency. And when we take our intentions and tap into that frequency or just hold it in our hands, that frequency enters our whole system because we are frequency, we are vibration. And so for a lot of cultures, all the medicine men, all the wise ones, I mean, you can look at any culture there is. They believed in their medicines, and they believed in the stones. And they believed that the stones possess powers. And that's why they were worn on the breastplates of priests and the crowns. So we believe, and there's some things that you can even look into that are quite cool. So one of the things that you may want to look up, and this is something that my dad taught me, is about the Mound Indians out of the US. And you'll find that there are giant mounds of rock that the Mound natives created that are very similar to the Mayan culture. And it is believed that these were created with the power of the stones, and that the natives believe that stones travel. I believe that. Have you ever driven in an area where it's just so beautiful and natural, and all of a sudden there are these gigantic boulders out of nowhere, or these awesome shapes? In the old days, it was believed that the gods would cast people into stone. And where I lived in BC, there was this giant stone that was like a few blocks away from my shop, where we would go and do sweats there and stuff. There was a underground place that we did healing and native work. But there was a giant stone, and it was said that the 3 chiefs of that area were cast into that stone because they became egotistical. And they started to keep the medicine to themselves. And they did not teach their culture. And it has been known that children could hear the 3 chiefs in the stone. And there's a picture of the stone with the sweat behind it. And when you take a picture of it, there's 3 mists. It gives me goosebumps because I learned so much there, and I know that that place had spirit. And there's a study around that area, and they actually had me go there and walk the land to see if I could sense where people were buried, because it was a place where they would bury themselves unmarked. And it was always accurate. So when we walk on the earth, our power goes into the spirit of the earth. And I want to get into all of these stones. And that's why, we use crystals and gemstones and all of these amazing stones that are available to us. But in the ancient days, it was the stones you found at the lake, the stone you found at the ocean or the river. Those are the stones that had power to the ancient people. So these holy stones are very powerful. And they're usually found by a body of water. And they're known to be formed by the power of water. But they possess a natural hold. And if they're also called many different things. So they're called hag stones, they're called hex stones, they're called snake eggs, witch stones, fairy stones, holy stones, eye stones. But they're usually found along riverbeds or along the seashore. And I always find that the seashore is where I find it's the easiest to find them. And you can walk along like St. Martin's. I live here. There's a lot of beach, and you can find them. They're there. But the hole is formed because of the action of the running or the moving water, and that's what's causing the erosion. We have the sea caves. So that is like it's going to be one big fairy hole, I bet one day, some of those. But these hagstones are made by the force of the element of water. And we believe that the stones drink water. Stones retain water. And so I have you with a bowl of water for your stone, because when we get into activating it, we're going to use the water. So we can use these for a protection amulet. But the name hagstone actually originates in ancient beliefs, because they were curable. They would use it to cure sickness. They would use the stone, and it was caused to, they would use it, and they were called adder stones in the ancient days, ADDER stones. And they were to protect the person from not just snake bites, but of evil. And in the Germanic legend and folklore, they said that these stones are formed when the serpents gather together and when they use their venom to create the holes in the center of the stones. So you can find these on land. And that, who knows, could be true. Pretty powerful stuff. But there's many uses. But they have been used by witches and in the magical world worldwide for hundreds of years for rituals and spell work. They actually are used to protect and counteract anybody else's magic. They ward off the dead, like not the spirits of good, but they will ward off the roaming spirits, the shadows creatures. They will ward off sickness and nightmares. And if you have trouble sleeping, put a holy stone in your pillowcase or by your bed, and you'll see that it may influence you. But what I love is these are used to see invisible creatures, not just spirits. So we could actually go into a place where we sense spirit and look through this. And if you do have one, look through it, because it's not very difficult. It's awesome. And you can see spirits. It's a portal of power, and it opens the portal and the window into the other realms. But it's also known as a fairy stone because we can see the fae or the nature spirits through it. And I'm going to get into that too. So that little hole in your stone can be used for fertility magic. So if you wanted to use it for fertility, you can tie it to the bedpost and it will help facilitate pregnancy. There's stories that you can find large hagstones that you can walk through. And there's actually one here in St. Lawrence at one area where it's like a cave that you can walk through. You can only get and walk through it when the water is out, but it's pretty cool. And those are very powerful. And druids would walk through those for healing. If you had a headache or anything, it was very sacred that when you walk through, you're walking into a portal of another time and another place, and that you can shed the things that you're carrying. Or the large walking ones, lovers would hold their hands and walk through it in hopes of achieving pregnancy. People would also put holy stones in the fields or in the barns to protect their animals from bewitchment. You know, we look at how the spiritual world is opening up around us, and it's like people are starting to feel enough freedom and protection to, you know, speak and come out. It took me, I was scared to come out. Like, I don't want anyone to see my face and know who I am. And I had a thing about that. And then many, many people kept telling me it's okay, it's time, whatever. But in the 1500s, this was going on. 1500s, there was witches and fortune tellers and covens and cults. So all of this that I'm talking about stems back to those times. And back then, the magic was way more crazier than it is today. Okay, like people would cast things into pigs, and then the farmer would eat the pig, and it would create bad things. Like there was some serious stuff, and you see it on TV. So we will use this to protect us, but it also keeps us It also keeps everything around it protective. People would put this in their milk so that it wouldn't sour. Or they would put it close to the hens that refuse to lay hens. Fishermen and sailors would often find them on the beaches during their travels. And they would tie them to their boats to keep off evil spirits and witches from affecting their ships or their catch. It's also believed that evil spirits and witches or negative witches would curse ships so that they had small catches. But a hagstone would prevent anything from happening. We can also learn to control the winds. With this, we can call the wind. And if you actually listen to the wind, sometimes these will activate your hearing and the wind will sound different with this up. You can hear the sea with the shells. You can hear the wind with this. So we can use these hagstones to call the fae or nature spirits, because nature spirits' power is meant to help us. That's whenever we do our magic or focus on something, it's the nature spirits and our connection to our ancestors that come forward. And so if you are sitting outside and you see if there's any dragon, if you ever see dragonflies, that is a sign there's fairies around. Lots of dandelions. Dandelions are a sign that there's fairies around. If you have an apple tree, they're very magical. You can look through your stone, and that's what you're meant to do, is look through your stone at the apple tree, around it, and you'll be able to see fae. And some of you may think, oh yeah, you can see fairies. It was always one of those things that I love to say. I believe in fairies. I believe in angels. They always say you're crazy when you get to the UFOs. Whatever. I believe in it all. Because I've had experience. And that's why I believe in them. And because I've had experience with spirit and the spirit world, and I've seen creatures in the spirit world, among other things that we humans create, how can we not believe in the beauty of nature spirit and the elementals? People believe that the trees have spirit. Some of them will grow in clusters and some of them will mourn the other trees, will go into mourning when one gets cut. Stones have spirit. If you walk the beach and ask to see the nature spirit of the stones, you'll see faces in them. You'll be able to feel their power. So to see the fae, we can use a holy stone. And we want to close one eye. I'm not very good at winking, but you close one eye and you look for it. But one of the first things I like to do is the ancient spell that we're going to do soon. And then after I do this, I will look at the full moon. I know the full moon is like almost 20 days away, but you will want to look at the next full moon with this. And it's amazing. Just take a look at the detail of the moon when you look at it through the hole and when you're not using it. So using this, we can actually see into the kingdom of the fae. We're able to see elementals and other beings from the spirit world. And it's also said that when we have these fairy stones or these hag stones, you're meant to communicate and open your life up to the fairies and to the magic of it. These stones choose us. Some people will like find them all over, but you know, they are very powerful. So you don't need a jar full. And sometimes if you have a jar full of them, the spirit in the household, they'll all just like create an energy. So if you do have stones in your house, it's important to touch them every once in a while so they don't get, you know, bored and disconnected to you. They're in your home because they love you. They're working with you. They have the vibration that matches you, and you chose each other. And it is not dangerous to connect to the nature spirits. They're not negative. There are mundane spirits that are similar to nature spirits, and they can be, you know, looked at as negative nature spirits, but they're not. We are all earth, air, fire, or water. Our horoscope, our astrology, our power is connected to that. So our spirit is connected to all the spirits of those elements. So you want to look out into nature for fairies. And when you look through this, you're actually fine-tuning your attraction skills because you're seeking, right? You're opening up the world to seeking. Another time to look through your fairy stone is when there's morning dew. If you wake up in the morning and there's dew on the leaves, then take a look and see if you can find a fairy around it. So the fairies will get your attention by like moving a leaf. Sometimes leaves will move in the forest and there's no breeze. That would be them. But butterflies, dragonflies, bees, there's fairies around. And if you have animals, there's fairies around. They're already in your home. But if we looked at one of the most healing things of the ancient time was looking at the morning dew through your fairy hole at a leaf that had it, and they would actually grab it with their blessing fingers, so the two fingers on their right hand, the water, and they would anoint themselves. And then they would try to see the spirit. We can also control the wind and the waves. So if you're holding a fairy stone in your left hand and you're standing at the waves and you call in a big wave, I love doing that. Show me a big wave, you know, and see if the ocean will listen. But the fairy stone was found in the ocean or in the water. So that shows that you are meant to discover sea spirits or mermaids or the spirit of the sea or the water spirits. But you can also find fairy stones in a forest. And if you do find a fairy stone in the forest, it's usually right by the base of a tree. Because it's said that the nature spirits will give it to the trees as a healing or an offering. So our holy stones will connect to what happens when you look through the hole at others. You may see something. You know, some people can look at a person and know they look like a lion and, you know, that spirit animal is around them. So you could actually look at someone all the way around them and see what you get and trust that you're seeing their nature spirit. Our shadow spirits, I mean, it's always shown as the wolf. No, it ain't a wolf for all of us. I know I'm a dragon. So our animals change, but they also come out. And that you would want to do around the new moon, because that's our creatures are active. They're fine-tuning and connecting and realigning their instincts and that power that protects us and what they have to focus on. So new moon will always bring us something new to focus on. And it will always also bring something that needs to be released. But we can see that. I love that you asked that question. So if you look through your holy stone around someone, try to do it on a new moon 3 days before or the new moon to see. Another thing that is traditional is creating charms with these stones. And we can suspend them on cords. So say we will, like for Halloween, if we want to connect to that veil between the worlds, I'll put a red piece of yarn around it and wear it as an amulet. And I will focus on seeing the spirit world. They're also used as known as a pledge stone because it's known to give the person that holds that power the ability to know if the truth is being spoken. So if you ever want to know what's going on, you can hold the stone and your intuition will read what is truthful. And some people actually believe that they were a representation of the goddess. And that's where we're going to get into with the ritual. So because it was known as a representation of the goddess, it was used to create powerful love spells. We can tie them to anything we want protected. So say you want to do a ritual for your children, you could actually tie a string around them and have it attached to the hagstone and ask for your children to be protected. And I would leave it like that for a minimum of 3 days. And those things you want to do on your altar or in your place that's sacred to you. And some people will actually, if they have more than one, they will put them all on the same string because they believe the more you have, if you tie them together, you'll get a magical boost of power. They will regenerate our energy. I have used this just by rubbing on, like if you get a toothache, you can just rub it on. I have used this to get rid of pains. If we want to refresh our body, mind, and spirit, we can hang this over our bed or keep it on our nightstand as long as it's within 4 feet of where we sleep. And you'll find that there's a healing energy that the stone will bring you. And at night, if you look at it, if you connect with it and look at it, you'll see its glow just sitting there. So they're pretty cool. They'll protect you from the evil eye, and they'll keep you protected. Like you're a sacred object. This is a sacred object. So they're pretty special. The other thing is, I want you to put your stone in your hand, and even if you don't have a holy stone, you can use a regular stone for this. But grab a stone or your holy stone and put it in your hand, left hand. Now, in the old days, these were so sought after and very valuable. And because of the common belief that the magic was so powerful. And when we carried this, the reason why it became such a belief is because people felt that magic could not work on moving water. Did you know if you feel you're attached to a negative spirit, or if a negative spirit is trying to get your attention and you cross a bridge, it can't follow you? And there's times where I'll be driving. I hate driving at night. I mean, I have driven through a spirit. I hate it. But when I feel creeped out, as soon as I go over water, I feel great. It's true. And so these have that power. They have the power of moving water because the holes in the stone were made by that force. Now, let me see what else I want to talk about. We talked about how they will also communicate with tree spirits. So using the hagstones, we can talk to the nature spirits and ask them to show themselves. And in order to do that, you just have to be relaxed. They're not going to come around when you're stressed out. But these stones are known to be associated with fairies, and we can call upon them just by holding them. The doorway is a key. If you ever have a dream of a key, a lot of times this stone will represent a spiritual key to a doorway. And it's known as, if I do traveling to the underworld, or I want to go into the fairy kingdom in a meditation or a journey, I will hold my stone. So they also were used to call upon their elemental spirits. Because, and in the old days, like in the medieval times, they believed that these stones had the power to bind a fairy to someone's service for a length of time. I know, hardcore. I'd be scared. I wonder what they would think of me and my magic, in this day and age. But, like I said, it was pretty hardcore. So I want to go a little bit into where this belief system of the holy stones came from. And it's believed that the magic and the myth of it came through the cult of Diana. And so in the old days, there was a cult that represented the goddess Diana. And this is where the power of the hagstones came into place. So Diana is known as a moon goddess. And that's why, even if you haven't seen a fairy, look at the moon through this. Because Diana shares, and if you see pictures of the goddess Diana, she always has the crescent. She always wears it. Because she shares the lunar trinity with two other goddesses, Selene and Hecate. And these three goddesses serve as a patron goddess of witches. And this is going back thousands of years. So she represents power over the earth. And that is something that when we are connecting to the divine power, a lot of people will use the goddess. And so when covens started, or when groups came together, think about the Roman days when these goddesses were in power. There was worship. There was covens. There was cults, whatever you want to call them. And so this stone was something that was, this magic was practiced in that time. So I want to get into a little bit about Diana. So think about, try to go back to the 1500s or even earlier. But back then, there was priests, there was priestesses, there was wizards, there was fortune tellers. And I'm going back before all the gods of Greece and Rome, because the old ancient magic believed in 12 gods. And they would worship and do invocations and magic to these 12 gods. And those 12 gods represented the planets. That's where the powers of Bacchus or Juniper, I need to do something with juniper, maybe a juniper bath. Bacchus, Jupiter, there's Venus, Mercury, but also they would use their ancestral spirits as gods. So, when we call in our ancient ones to give us the power and passion we need in life, they did that back then too. But their ancestors were known as gods. And these women of magic would always prepare amulets. They would create spells. And it was known in old Roman time that all of these legends of the Latin gods and all of these powers of the goddesses were something that was believed. And so the women would create and collect or create hidden spells. And they would do it in stones. They would do it in secret places. And it was true to them that they knew how to draw from sources and practice that. And that's something that I'm always fascinated about. So Diana, her cult was known as the Gospel of Witches, Aradia. So a little bit of a brief explanation is that witchcraft was known as an old religion. And with the Gospel of the Witches, Diana is the goddess. And her daughter was Aradia. So I have the book that I'm going to also share with you for taking this class. It's a copy of it. And you might think, oh my God, it's pretty hardcore, but it's still neat to check out. But Aradia was the daughter of Diana, and she was known as a female messiah. And she had this power. She was born with it. She came down to the earth. And they believed that her daughter was born to the earth to establish witches and witchcraft. And then the daughter was to return to heaven. And that's where these ceremonies and invocations and these incantations and full moon ceremonies and exorcisms and spells and the Holy Stone came into power. Another that I love is goat's rue. That's an herb. I used to grow it in BC. Oh my God, it was so amazing. But that was also something that they would use. The Holy Stone, goat's rue, and verbena. And that was kind of the three things that they would use in their magic. And they believed that it would declare. It would bring the power to speak. It would bring power to things that were chanted, and that it would bring a power to the witch meetings. They would also include the cake and a drink, just like we do in the full moon ceremony. So a lot of the things that we practice in our full moon or in our Sabbats stem back all this time. So let me see if I can get into a little bit about it. Now, we've all heard of Lucifer, right? In the modern day, he is looked as the devil. But back then, Lucifer was actually known as Diana's brother, the goddess's brother, Diana. And the book of Aradia will tell you more about that. I can't remember it all right off. But the book that you'll receive has a lot of neat stuff. Okay. Let me see. And again, some people look at it like this book that I'm going to send you is something that is of folklore. But again, back then things had to be published and moved a certain way. Okay, it's just since the 50s that things started to come out. So how Diana gave birth to Aradia. So this is the gospel of the witches. Diana greatly loved her brother Lucifer. And Lucifer was the god of the sun. So Lucifer was also the god of the sun and of the moon, known as the god of light. Apollo was later named. So Lucifer is actually known as Apollo. And they were proud of their beauty. They had a pride and they wanted to create a paradise. So they say that Diana had by her brother the daughter who they gave the name Aradia. And in those days, they were on earth. There was many rich people and many poor people. And the rich people would make slaves who were cruelly treated. Every palace tortured. The castles had prisoners. But many slaves escaped and they fled the country and they became thieves and they were looked at as evil people. So instead of sleeping at night, they plotted to escape. And they would move into the mountains and the forests to avoid slavery. And Diana said one day to her daughter, and it's like all Spanish and Latin is what you'll see. But there is a little bit of a translation. And it was, the true indeed that thou a spirit, born but to become again. A mortal must go to earth below, to be a teacher unto women and men. They would study witchcraft in thy school. Now this is like 1500s that this is written. Yet like Cain's daughter, thou shalt never be, nor like the race who have become at last wicked and infamous from suffering, who are all thieves and knaves, like unto them ye shall not be. And thou shalt be the first of witches known, and thou shalt be the first of all the world, and thou shalt teach the art of healing and poisoning, and thou shalt make them die in their places, poisoning those who are the great lords of all. And thou shalt bind the oppressor's soul with power. And when we find a pleasant or a peasant who is rich, then we will teach the witch, your pupil, how to grow his crops or ruin someone's crops with your deepest desire, with lightning and with thunder, and the hall of the wind. And when the priest shall do you injury, ye shall do to him double the harm, and do it in the name of me, Diane, queen of witches. Pretty hardcore. But this is the beginning of it all. And this is like what they would do. So the book that I'm going to send you is going to have all kinds of stuff. You're going to see the Sabbath, which is the witch meeting, and how to consecrate your supper. And that's how the Gospel of the Witches would do it. You'll also see in there is a conjuration of salt and how to conjure your salt, which is usually done at noon. So you'll have a salt blessing in it, which I think is really cool. And check it out. But I want to go into our charm now. So connect to your stone. And you know, whenever I do things like this, I like to make sure that I have a candle lit. Because if I can see an aura around the candle, I know I'm in a place where I can practice magic. So that is something that is, you know, keep in touch with that. Listen to that and check your candle out and know that if you see an aura, you're there. You don't have to question what you're doing at all. So you want to hold the stone for a minute, and we're going to also grab the water in a second and put it in there. Trying to find. One of these that I did is I did a good fortune one that you'll see in the book, and it was the first time I ever did it. I was like, Marcus was pretty young. I think he was like a couple months old, and I did this, and I summoned my first spirit, and it freaked me out. And I had to like deal with it and, you know, go through what I experienced. And it wasn't anything to be freaked out about, but sometimes the first thing is always scary. Even the fairies. The first time I ever experienced one, I did fairy magic, and I really put my heart and soul into it. We all went to this creek. It was called Crystal Creek. And when we went there, these two old men, they were probably 70s, were on this very high cliff, and they were going to jump. Now, I'm scared of heights, okay? I can't even stand on a ladder without my knees going like this. And I'm an air person. But I was like looking at them, and they jumped, and we like screamed. We were celebrating their jump. We thought that was so cool. You know, these guys in their Speedos, French, white hair. So I called them over and I said, why did you do that? Because it seemed like it was some kind of celebration. And they said, well, we just got out of prison. And they just got out of prison, and they decided that they were going to break a fear and cleanse themselves at the same time. So they did that. And it was pretty awesome. And after that, they became clients for a little while until they got married and moved on. Not to each other. They both found women eventually. But that day, it was just so neat. We went for a walk, and there was a whole group of us because we went there to do fairy magic. And we're walking down this path, and all of a sudden, I feel something, and it's like slapping my face. And I go to look, and I saw the biggest wings biggest butterfly-like wings I've ever seen. And I screamed so loud. Like I screamed like I was being murdered in a forest. And everyone looked, and we all saw it go away. I was so mad at myself because I screamed when I could have just been like, hi. So that was my first experience. My second experience, we were camping in the middle of nowhere. I'm just trying to get to my chant while you're holding the stones, listening to this. But we were camping in the middle of nowhere because I was on my way to pick up a girlfriend, and it was the blue moon. And blue moons are super powerful when it comes to magic and fairies. And if you can visit a creek on the blue moon, I guarantee you will have an experience. So either way, we're driving, and we got taco time. And now we're going to camp in a tent in the middle of nowhere, where Brett's parents told us, this is a really nice place to camp. You won't be bothered. So now I'm scared to get out of the car because I'm a burrito, right? I'm a meat burrito for every bear out there. And I'm also beast bait. So if there is ever any animals, I'm the first they'll eat. So you don't have to worry if you're around me, they'll come to me. So I'm really scared and I won't get out of the vehicle until I know my food has adjusted and I don't smell like a burrito. So Brett gets the whole, I'm sorry, but Brett gets the whole tent and camp ready to scoop me in there from the car into the cabin or into the tent. So I do that. And as we're laying there and I'm trying to relax and connect to nature, all I can hear is a party. And it wasn't like a party of like people like us, very gentle, beautiful, like children like laughs. And we're both laying there and we're like, do you hear that? I found it. Okay, I got it. And we heard this. We listened to it for a while. And when we finally, I'm like, okay, let's go out there. I'm no longer a meat burrito. So we go out of the tent and we start following the creek that's right by our place. And we could hear it getting louder and louder. And the blue moon was above us. And you could see that the moon's light was kind of glowing in the creek. And we were getting close. Like we could hear it. But then all of a sudden, when we got close, it just like shut right off. And we're like, darn it. And I was like, I just kind of said, I love you, because I do that. But I was like, oh, I love you. Thank you. I heard you. Bring me a sign that everything's going to be okay. So we went to bed. When we got out of our tent the next day, there it was a triangle stone that was perfect. And triangle stones are really powerful when it comes to the spirit world as well, right? Because the triangles are all an element. And to me, that was like, we're going to be okay. You know, it was a good story. So we did have a little experience there. So listen to nature on full moons, new moons, blue moons. And you never know. You may experience them. They want you to experience them. They're not hiding on you. We just have to learn to watch for them, just like we connect to spirit and we learn how to see spirit. We can do that to the elementals. So I want you to grab your stone and grab your water. And we're going to put this stone in the water. So now you've held your stone for a little while. We're going to put it in the jar or in the bowl of water. Now, whenever you want to recharge your stone, you want to put it in water. So water will cleanse it. Well water, ocean water, spring water, even tap water does have spirit to it. So we feed our stone with water. And while it's in the water, I want you to hold your bowl. See how I'm kind of holding my bowl with the stone in it? And I'm putting both hands around it. And let's say the chant. So you can listen to me, and if you want, you can repeat it as well. But this is it. I have found a holy stone upon the ground. O fate, I thank thee for the happy find. Also, the spirit who upon this road has given to me. And may it prove to be for my true good and my good fortune. I rise in the morning by the earliest dawn, and I go forth to walk through pleasant vales, all in the mountains or the meadows fair, seeking for luck, while onward still I roam, seeking for rue and vervain scented sweet, because they bring good fortune unto all. I keep them safely guarded in my bosom, and none may know it. It's a secret thing, and sacred too. And this I speak the spell. O Vervain, ever be a benefit, and may thy blessing be upon the witch, or on the fairy who did give this stone to me. It was Diana who did come to me, all in the night in a dream, and said to me, if thou wouldst keep all evil folk afar, then ever keep the vervain and the rue safely beside me. Great Diana, thou who are the queen of heaven and of earth, and of the infernal lands, thou who art the protectress of all men, unfortunate, of thieves, and of women too, who lead an evil life, and yet has known that their nature was not evil. Thou, Diana, hast still conferred them on some joy in life. Or I may truly, at another time, conjure thee that thou shalt have no peace or happiness, for thou shalt ever be in suffering until we grant that which I require in faith from thee. So when we find the round stone, instantly as we put it in our hand, whether it's good, whether it's big, whether it's small, it's a good sign. But it should never be sold. These things aren't something that you want to collect and sell. And some people would never even give them away, because the receiver will receive the good luck that the other person was supposed to get if it was found in nature. So it is something you don't want to buy. You do want to find it. And you want to ask the nature spirits, please bring me a holy stone. And they will. Because they believe in the power of witches and elementals. So when you find a round stone, raise it to the sky. And it's actually known to raise it to the moon. Remember I said next full moon, look through it. Look to the heavens of the moon. And it's actually traditional to throw the stone up 3 times and catching it. And when you do that, it brings the spirit alive. So you want to look at the next full moon with it, throw it up and catch it 3 times. It doesn't have to be like, you don't have to be throwing it way up like it's a kid or something you're trying to catch. Just, a little toss and catch it like it's a coin. And you will activate and bring that stone into power. It will become a spirit of good omen who will aid you, who will help you. And it will bring you the things that you need. So it is meant to bring you the things that you need, but also to give you the energy where you will never feel abandoned or without. And that the stone will become a spirit. So as you have it in your home or when it's in your pocket and you carry it, you can call unto it, you can rub it, you can hold it anytime. You can also ask it to bring you guidance. Should I buy this? And it will bring you the guidance that you want. You'll actually get an answer yes or no right away. Okay. Does anyone have any questions about their stone? Now before, let me see if I can, a couple more things before we go. Moon water is amazing. So one thing that I like to do is when I'm focused on healing my body, which is now, I need to do a detox. But if you need to heal your body, you can create this water and drink it. And it is known to be a healing water. You could put this in a jar, glass jar or pitcher, have it out during the full moon. Very powerful. And actually, that's some of the things that would happen. So we can make charmed hagstone water. And you want to take your hagstone and you want to have them soak in the water for a minimum of 3 hours. I like to do mine overnight. I just keep it in my jug, put it in the fridge, and there it is. And I would try to do that. Create a hagstone water and use it as a medicine for a little while. And when you make moon water with hagstones, you're creating a power that will activate and heal you. So you can drink it, you can put it in your food when you're cooking, just a little bit of it. You can pour it in your bath. And if you even want to take it a step further, you could use the water of the river or a stream. I like using spring water with my hagstones. I just always, go to a spring. I have one up 3 properties. I have some land and I like to go and get spring water from there. But these stones are also known as Odin Stone. I don't think I mentioned that. So the Vikings would use it, but they called it Odin Stone, a fairy stone. It's also known as a witch's amulet. But if it has I'm going to show you this one here. If it has a hole, look at all my holes in that candle holder. So I'll light this up when I'm healing or asking for healing, and then our spirits know what we're using for power. We can use the power of wind. So you can hold the stone in your left hand and ask which wind is in power in my life, and wait and see where the wind hits you. We can call winds. And I actually used to practice calling the wind with my stone. And it's easy for me. I can get the wind to change. It's something I love to do. I used to practice it in the teepee. It's called shaking tent. And we'll communicate with spirit, and the wind will shake the tent and give us messages. So we can use wind and water to create this medicine. Putting it in tea is awesome. But there are also, if you need to protect yourself or say you can't sleep, you can drink the water. It will not only help you sleep and relax, but it will prevent nightmares. So even for kids, you can do that. And when we need to speak to the universe, they say to hold that stone up to the moon and to talk to the gods. We can also use these stones to heal pains just by rubbing it. If an area is bothering you, or there's a sick area, we can just have it laying on our body and it will bring healing power. And many people believe to use it when they're healing a disease or they're trying to maintain general health. But traditionally it's rubbed. The first time I ever got healed by this was by a medicine man. It was outside of high school. I was in hairdressing school. Yeah, I was. I wanted to be a hairdresser. I actually was a hairdresser until I was in a car accident and screwed my arm. So here I am at hairdressing school out of high school, and this guy comes in and he was sitting in one of my friend's chairs for a haircut. And I'm not paying attention to him. I'm doing my own thing. But I noticed him and he's looking at me, and he kept looking at me. And so I was like a little weirded out. Like, I'm a weirdo attractor. It's probably because I just said that and I believe that, but it's true. Ask anyone in my family. There's a weirdo, I get them. Be spate and weirdos. So anyway, I'm like bothered by this person looking at me in the mirror, and he's very native looking, and he's wearing a suede brown vest with the tassels. And so finally I'm like, I'm going out for a smoke. So I went out for a smoke, and my friends came, and the ones that were free, and we're all talking, and I'm like, that guy just keeps staring at me and I don't like it. Well, as we're having a smoke and we're talking about it, he comes out. So he didn't even get his hair cut because he came right out. And he walked up to me and he said, "Show me your scar." And I was like, "What are you talking about?" He goes, "You have a scar. You have a scar on your stomach. Show it to me." And I was weirded out because right on my stomach, close about 3 inches from my belly button, I got stabbed with a butter knife. And this was from an ex I was with. And I never told anyone about it. So I lifted up my shirt and I showed him my scar. And he took his holy stone out of his pocket and he went and rubbed my scar up and down, touching it. And as he was doing that, all my friends are like looking at him, and we're all watching this, and we watched it disappear. The scar disappeared. And then he looked at me and he said, "You know, you can never go back because scars, the next one won't heal. You'll be dead." And it changed my life. And, you know, I was like, at that time, you know, just out of a high school. So you're like, how weird, right? You don't think it's so big. We were stunned. We just thought it was a magic trick. And, you know, I don't think I appreciated it as much as I should have. And I always regretted that until 2 years later. I'm working in a restaurant as a waitress. And all of a sudden I turn around and there he is, sitting in a booth. And he's sitting there with a woman, an older woman. And I went up to him and I'm like, "Oh my God, it's so nice to see you." And I wanted to just give him all my thanks. And then he looked at me and he said, "Are you ready to heal?" And I was like, "What do you mean?" And he goes, "We're doing a ceremony at the teepee, and Medicine Hat, where I lived, has the world's largest teepee." He said, "We're doing a ceremony at the teepee, and you need to do a healing ceremony. I want you to come." And as he's talking to me about this, another girl walked up and she's like, "Oh, it sounds so interesting." And, you know, he was talking about it. And I went off work and I went to the bar. And I was like, weirded out. Like he wanted me to lay in the middle of this teepee and do this healing. And I regretted that. I went to work the next day and my friend Stephanie was telling me how it was so amazing and it changed her life. And I was like, shit. And I never saw that guy again. But he brought me knowledge. And even though I was immature for it, you know, he showed me that you can believe in healing and it can happen. And, you know, we crossed paths with people and sometimes we don't know where it was going. But I was also, you know, I was also in a place where I would never let someone touch me. You know, an older man asking you to come lay down in the teepee and you just left, you know, abuse 2 years before. So it was like, no way. But I still received a lot from that. And when it comes to my mind, there's always more teaching behind it. And I feel like at first, that first time, I really didn't think he was real. I thought he was like, I've had experiences where people have come and talked to me, and when I turn around, they're gone. And so, you know, that's one reason why I believe that if someone is in my area, they get me. I don't care what they're talking about, I'm 100% there. There's nobody else but that person with me. And it's because of what I learned from that. And I don't want to have regrets, missed opportunities. So I am present. And either way, I'm blabbing. But that is something that happened to me. I was healed by a holy stone. And that is something that even with this stone, I will rub on things. Like I get like, oh, even my spider bites. I got a spider bite on here, and I will rub my holy stone on it. Or I'll wear it as a healing amulet when I feel like something's weak. Or if I've done too much work, I will wear it to revive my spirit. So if you don't have a holy stone, go look for them. Do the bath. I'm going to leave my stone in this overnight. And then I'm actually going to use some of this water in my bath tomorrow, but you can use it in anything that we discussed. You can even put this in a spray bottle and cleanse things. Like you can cleanse your door handles, your thresholds, use this as an elixir. And sometimes it tastes different than water. But yeah, I want you to try it and go find a holy stone if you don't have one. I like to go for a walk and try to see what I find every year. It's pretty powerful. So before we go, you can ask me any questions you want. I will remind you to do the full moon thing. And when I can get my fairy stick, I'll show you, I'll post a picture of that, but Brett doesn't get home until midnight, and it's like, I need his height. Okay. So let's see, what do we get? Even the one thing that I love to do, and I do this often, is I will actually, when I lay down, I put it on my third eye. Look at how that thing just wants to be there right now. And it is so soothing and awakening. And I'll just put it there and fall asleep that way. If I turn, I usually find the stones stuck to me in the morning somewhere. Let's see what we get. Oh, wow. Transformation. A fresh new way to living emerges. So when you're beach hunting for stones, the darker the stone, the lower the vibration. So the darker the stone, the more grounding it is for you. The lighter the stone in color, the higher the vibration. And when you pick a stone, you always want to hold it in your left hand like I had you do. Because when you feel the vibration of it, that means that you have a connection to that stone. It's already connecting to you. And so whenever I use an herb in my cooking, or if I'm making an elixir, I always make sure I can feel the vibration. If I feel vibration, it's alive. There's a spirit involved. There's magic involved. Okay? In a diffuser, yes. Oh, a diffuser would be amazing. Yes, definitely. And next time, I didn't get you to feel the water first, but tomorrow, actually feel your water right now. If you have the water, feel your water and how thick it is. We did that in the Sacred Circle training. And then tomorrow, feel your water. And you'll get like a thick smoothiness to it. It doesn't usually go like really sticky like other water. It's usually like a silk or almost like something you can rub on your body. We have headaches. We can put some water and just rub our head, and you'll feel that water for a long time. 45 minutes, you'll still feel the water there. So explore with it. Okay? So with that, I'm going to leave you. I hope you enjoyed it. I'll email you a copy of this tomorrow, so you'll have it. And I'll also send you out that Book of Arabia. If you ever have questions, message me. Many blessings to you. Thank you for joining. Hi. And we'll talk soon. Bye-bye.